Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. Summa spoilerum, summa triggerum, summa tangentum. I don't really have a thesis for this one. This was my gift from Underground Geek when I retweeted him. And he's got a video kind of going through the book and telling you the weird story of the book. So I'll link to that. Go watch that. I don't have much to add to what he said because this is kind of a meh book. It's not even bad enough that I want to, flip through it and cringe and roast it, right? It's very meh. I've used the term adequate before, kind of as a backhanded compliment, where I'm saying, I don't hate it, but nothing about it makes me jump up and down excited. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to get more and more and more of it, right? It's just it's solid and kind of keeping the consistency. I noticed one little panel in this that sparked something, so I'm going to just give us a data point, and then two, I'm thinking about the art style. So a while ago, I did my response to Zach on the pros and cons of committing to the bit, and Zach was talking about the independent art style creeping its way into Marvel, and now that I'm looking for that, I see it plain as day in this, and I would describe the independent art style as middle of the road. So when they do a romance, it looks like this. If they do an action adventure superhero story, it looks like this. If they do a out there insane, he's got multiple personality disorder and he hears voices, this is crazy world story, it looks like this. Everything looks the same, and they're not using the art to kind of suggest to you the tone of the story itself. I think it's come across that I have different tastes than Zach, and that I'm okay with there being stylistic diversity at Marvel. I've actually defended the idea of them even pushing in a cartoonier direction, just full on committing to the bit of embracing cartoony expressiveness for their younger kid books and their funny books, because I think there's a beauty in that this middle of the road style misses out on. But even the ideas of beauty I'm talking about, I think, are more primal, and they can underlie a lot of different styles. So what's beautiful about the '90s comic book style that Zach loves isn't just the big pouches or the over the top expressions or the grunge of the line work. What's beautiful about it is something I think a bit more universal, and that's energy, life, and movement, where a Renaissance painting can have energy, life, and movement with more realistic figures. A '90s comic book with exaggerated figures can have energy, life, and movement. A little bit more of a middle-of-the-road generic cartoon style can still have energy, life, and movement. And I think that's the big magic thing that helps us connect with the world of the comic. Yeah. Then maybe this sort of generic independent style may have some connection with the trend of animation. I've noticed that a lot of new cartoons, whether it's Disney or Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, they're all starting to have a very similar vibe. Like, what is it? There's some new Disney show that's about like a star girl or star princess or something, and I think she looks really cute and it looks like a fun, bouncy cartoon, but I noticed that it looks like Steven Universe. It looks like Adventure Time. It looks like Gravity Falls. And I'm just wondering if maybe that's a coincidence or if there's this cultural trend of things starting to look the same, right? A sameness. And it's not like everything in the '90s was better magically because I'm nostalgic for it, but a Genndy Tartakovsky cartoon from 1990, the Genndy Tartakovsky style was essentially make a simple shape and then turn that simple shape into a character. And because you can have any type of simple shape, you can have a lot of variety in the character. So I'm kind of a Genndy Tartakovsky fanboy because I think the method of creating at Cartoon Network in the '90s gave those creators a lot of a springboard to go in all kinds of nutty directions. So I get when Zach jokes about Powerpuff Girls monsters, I get what he's saying. There's this goofiness and faux ironic, cheesy superhero story vibe invading Marvel Comics, which may in part come from the kids who watch Powerpuff Girls growing up and going to work in Marvel Comics. But Powerpuff Girls is pretty raw in its style and in its presentation. It has that goofy, teehee superhero crazy monster vibe to it, but it's also got this nuttiness to it in the first seasons, and then by the last season, petered out. So that's just like a mental note for me for it to research for the future. Is there something to do with sort of this stylistic melding into this sort of middle of the ground style that is related in the fields of animation and comics? Who knows? All right. So that's enough on style and committing to the bit and that whole thing. So when you go watch Underground Geek, one of the things from his video I really connected with, he's got a fun style, you know, he's kind of like walking us through the cringiness of it, but then he gets to this panel and he reads it and he makes a point. So kid Lobotomy here, he's insane, so Big Daddy's trying to help him heal through all sorts of legal and illegal methods. Lobotomy, as we know it, hasn't been practiced for years. This was different, with its hints of cannibalism, shamanistic ritual, and Dada. And then Underground Geek says no one knows what that is. At least they know what cannibalism is, but they don't know what these are. And he's right, and then something clicked. When I go to Thanksgiving in the red state, and if Dada art comes up, I'd have to explain what Dada art is, because no one in a red state knows what Dada art is. But I know what Dada art is, and every SJW knows what Dada art is. And what clicked for me is this was a click that for a long time in my life I wanted to be a part of, and I tried to be a part of. And I've got the wrong gender, racial, sex identity to be part of that clique. But when I look at Dada art and talk about it in this channel, what I hope I can show is understanding this history can give us some context into the mind of what an SJW is and what an SJW's cultural history and reference points are. So, you know, this doesn't mean that the writer loves Dada or just eats, sleeps, and breathes Dada art, but they have enough awareness of what Dada art is to reference this in their comic and expect you, the reader, to catch that reference and then make the connection to jarring, unconventional storytelling where everything's kind of going in and out and who knows what's real. Is this real? Who's that? Is it his sister? Is it his vision? What? Yeah, Dada. All right, that's the root of it. So the big connection I made is today in comic books, we are talking about things like postmodernism, where the seeds for these were sown 100 years ago. And if you lived 100 years ago and saw a Dada art show, you might have laughed and say, well, that's goofy. What will become of that? Yet here we are 100 years later, and this culture of kind of postmodern weirdness has trickled its way out from a little group of funny Dada artists making really bizarre and interesting work that was deconstructing Western culture. That, you know, the picture of Dada I always have in my mind is the Mona Lisa with a mustache on it. That's the picture which sums up what the Dada movement was. Tee-hee Western culture, am I right? And then that goes to the academies and the professors, and then it goes down to the students, and then the students, even if they don't become Dada conceptual artists, some of them go into comic books, and they bring this culture, and they bring these reference points with them into their work. And then it trickles down to you at the comic book shop. So, thank you. I think this panel was a good reference point for me to just kind of reinforce that, yes, my time in kind of the woke, progressive, conceptual art circle has given me some context and will let me do an angle that I think is really important for us to be aware of and to talk about, to understand what an SJW is, how an SJW thinks, and what they think art is. So, go check out Underground Geek. That's it. Keeping it short. Not doing all the tangents. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Catch you later.